Mic check. Peas and carrots, peas and carrots. Pronto. Hi, I'm Ashley Daigle, and this is Advice from the Cheerbrarian. Never heard that word before? That's because I smushed two words together because I felt like it. This week, we're going to do what we always do. Mix a dollop of advice to improve your life, born from a few of my successes and a boatload of my mistakes, with the book recommendation of the week, unearthed by my voracious love of reading, from self-help to historical fiction and everything in between. This week, we are going to unpack that weirdly good-bad feeling of receiving a compliment and learn how to do so with a bit more grace. Plus, we will break down how to give a quality compliment that'll make someone's day. If you like what you hear, and I really hope you do, please, pretty please, with 2 cherries on top, tell 2 people about this podcast and send them a link to an episode you enjoyed, because direct word of mouth is huge for a little pod and podcaster like me. A lot of times on this podcast, I have talked about topics that I think take a bit more understanding, and you kind of have to dig in. And I'm looking to sort of inspire some personal growth that is like a multi-step process. But today, I wanted to make it a bit easier for me and also for you. So we're going to talk about how to give and take compliments, which I do not think is rocket science, but I do think is a small change you can make in your life that can make a big difference. So, first question I have for you, pop quiz, hotshot. Is it easier to give or to take a compliment? Now, I cannot hear you as this is pre-recorded, as that is how podcasts work, but I bet I know what you're thinking. I bet you immediately, without hesitation, was like, oh, give a compliment. Giving compliments, way better than taking compliments. You might have even thought, oh gosh, I'm terrible at taking compliments. And so that is why I want to do this podcast, because I think it is going to be helpful to you, person who said that. If you already said, I'm great at taking compliments, maybe check out another episode or stick around. There's going to be jokes. It'll be fun. So this is particularly important to me. I mean, I have a segment called I Do Mean to Brag, right? So clearly, I want people to be comfortable being praised and having recognition and celebrating wins. The other reason I love compliments, it's an easy mood boost. One sentence can lift someone's day, can lift your day, whether you are the giver or the receiver. And it costs nothing. Like, inflation, it's a real problem. Compliments, $0 before, $0 now. So get in the habit of giving some out. So why, as we discussed, a moment ago, why is it so hard to receive praise and receive compliments? It's not just you. It's it's a lot of people. So I kind of dug into trying to understand this. And so, what is receiving praise really? So getting praise means it's sort of the cousin of receiving love. Somebody's showing you appreciation, which involves vulnerability. And I have talked about my girl, Brene Brown, many times on this podcast. That was sort of her launch point for her whole, foray into mainstream media, was her TED Talk on vulnerability, which you should check out. But simply put, vulnerability, by her definition, is the emotion we experience during times of uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. So when someone's giving you a compliment, that is a vulnerable position to be in, because you're just going about your day doing whatever, and someone sees you and they have said something about what they have seen in you out loud. And that's why it can be painful, because it's shining a light on you when you're not necessarily prepared for it. So, first of all, I want to say, if you find taking compliments to be super uncomfortable, that is okay. And we're going to work on it together. So, how to take a compliment? It's a very easy process. Well, I mean, it's steps. You got to do them, but there's four steps I've identified in how to take a compliment. Number 1, and this is probably the hardest one, resist what will likely be your first urge to self-deprecate. That's just going to be, what does self-deprecation sound like when it comes to a compliment? Oh, it was nothing. Oh, it was easy, right? You're just kind of pushing back on it. Well, why don't you want to do that? Well, it's kind of telling the other person that you think their compliment is bunk and you don't like their feedback, which isn't what you mean. I get it. It's just uncomfortable and you're trying to push back, but we want to work against that. Here's an example, literally from a text conversation I had literally this morning. Like, couldn't make it up if I tried. I was texting with a friend looking for advice about a work situation, And that I was really like, "Oh my gosh, this is a huge problem." And they like barely without a moment's thought were like, "Just say this to fix it," and fix it immediately. And so I said via text, "You are so smart and make my small problems seem small, hero." To which they immediately said, "It's just problems I've seen before." Now let's break that down. It's just problems I've seen before. Well, that what they're actually saying is, well, that's my experience. They have experience in that situation, which is how they knew how to help me. But they immediately were like, no big deal. And they said, you do the same thing with my emotional turmoil. So they flipped it, said, no big deal, and then sort of complimented me. To which I said, so then we are both smart. Take the compliment, damn it. To which they said, done. So that is a real life example of that urge to self-deprecate. And, if somebody saw something in you worth praising, don't let their effort be in vain. So ignore your first impulse, which is going to be to squirm away and maybe be like, "Oh, it was nothing," and like run away down an alley. Don't run away unless I guess you're in danger, but I don't think you're in danger just from a compliment. All right. Step 2, acknowledge the compliment. Here's the easiest thing you can say. Somebody compliments you, you just say, ready? Thank you. That's all you got to do. Thank you is a complete sentence. Or maybe you say, thank you, it has pockets. I got it at Old Navy. Because if you're wearing a dress and it has pockets, you have to tell us. That's the rules, right? So you can't, if they're complimenting your outfit, of course. Other options for acknowledging a compliment center the recipient's experience in your response. So you can say, thank you, glad you appreciated it, or happy it helped you. And, I'm not expecting in the moment that you necessarily have all these unique things you're thinking of. Pick one and be like, you know what, for the next week, month, whatever, if somebody gives me a compliment, I'm just going to say, happy it helped you. That's going to be my standard. Take that for a spin, see how it feels, see how it fits. So again, acknowledge the compliment. The third step is return the compliment if appropriate and relevant. So my friend sort of did that with me. He deflected it, which I said is a no, oopsie. But what he did was he said, "Oh, if instead he had said like, oh, thanks, you do the same for me." Well, then we have a little compliment barrage going back and forth, a little, tennis match, as it were. And then I could have said a compliment, and then we could have kept going all day, and I never would have recorded this podcast. Okay, and the fourth and final step of receiving a compliment with grace is let yourself friggin' enjoy it. So compliments are a form of appreciation. Let it simmer. And you know what? The more you practice, the easier it'll get, like with all things. And before long, it might not make you want to run down and hide in an alley. You got to give it a try. And I think those 4 steps lay it out pretty clear. Now I want to spend a moment talking about giving compliments because, again, costs you nothing, improves someone's day, and it improves your day. Any list you look up on the internet, anything you're trying to understand about how to be in a better mood or how to have more happiness or more joy, one of the top things you will always see suggested is do something nice for someone else. And so a compliment is a nice thing you can do for another person that takes very little effort. Now, because I love talking to strangers and talking in general, I'm always trying to find things to compliment people on because then I can have a conversation with somebody. And so I think I'm actually particularly good at giving compliments, which I guess is meta. I think I just gave myself a compliment about giving compliments. Wow. Okay. Anyway, so what makes a good compliment? There are 2 categories that you should try to do. And you just need one. Use one of these 2 categories. There we go. So, compliment people based on either their effort or their choices. So, what does that mean? So, effort could be something someone did at work for you. So the best work compliment I ever received that has like still given me joy to this day. Someone once told me I made it easy for others to work with me. In that they meant that I was really good at sort of communicating and making expectations clear. And the reason that compliment was so resonant was it was about sort of my outputs that they received, but it also wasn't something I recognized in myself. And so giving compliments is great because you may think, oh, it's so obvious this person's great at XYZ, but maybe they don't see themselves that way. So again, effort. So think of it as great job doing X. So it could be great job writing that email, great job making that graphic. Great job not yelling at that person that was really rude to us." Like, it could be really anything, but the point is it's something that they did that you're recognizing. And then the other category, that you can use is choices. So, if somebody's walking their dog, you say, "Oh my gosh, that is a really cute dog." Because guess what? They presumably got that dog. They picked that dog of all the dogs. Or you can tell somebody, "I love your hat. I love your pants. I love your dress." And then they should tell you if it doesn't have pockets, as I said. But what we don't wanna compliment people on is things they don't have choices about. So things like, "Ooh, your eyes are pretty," or, "Ooh, you look really, really skinny. You look really fit." And what I mean by, like, not having choices is, like, perhaps fitness is a measurement of their effort, but maybe it's just their genetics. And so you've sort of complimented them on something that they have no control over. Same thing with eye color. It's like I didn't if they have color contacts, I guess. But complimenting people on choices is, like, better because it's a thing that they decided to do, not something that was just heaped upon them. An exception about and also I should pause. I wanna make sure to be clear about this. Commenting on people's bodies, like, maybe we just try not to talk about people's bodies. Bodies are the least interesting thing about a person. I'm more interested in their ideas and in how they treat people and all of that. The exception to body related things, I think, is makeup. So I have been volunteering lately with the high school band, doing band mom stuff. And I noticed a couple young ladies had like really popping eye makeup. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, your lash should look fantastic. I love your eyeshadow." And like, yes, did they get their eyelashes genetically? Sure. But it was the effort that they applied. It was the choice that they made to put on that mascara that I was applauding, not the fact that they won some sort of eyelash lottery, which eyelash lottery, that is a good band name. So again, giving a great compliment, you want to stick with choices people have made and the effort they have done. And it'll be a lovely thing for them to hear unless they're not good at taking compliments. And if they look uncomfortable, maybe just pause and give them some of these tips. Or maybe just walk away, let people live their lives. If you want to compliment practice, hit me up. I will compliment your face off. And you can compliment me if you want. If you want to practice giving compliments, that is a sacrifice that I will make for you. I will gladly take any compliments you want to give me about my effort or about my choices. So, that's I'm willing to do that for you. And I wanted to end this segment actually with a poem that I thought was really, really important. You ready? We've come a long, long way together through the hard times and the good. I have to celebrate you, baby. I have to praise you like I should. That is a beautiful poem about the importance of compliments. And by poem, I mean that is the lyrics to the beginning of the song Praise You by Fatboy Slim, which started playing in my head when I was working on this episode because, like, praise you like I should. That's what compliments are. Also, and I feel really bad, I'm about to tell you this. I was like, "Oh, Fatboy Slim, what's his deal?" Y'all, Fatboy Slim is 61 years old. And that was upsetting to me to learn. I was like, "What? Should he be Fat Man Slim at this point?" I don't know, and then that's a whole other thing. Okay, I'm sorry I told you that. I really am, but because I had to know, so did you. In conclusion, this has been Compliments with our Cheerberrian, and now I'm gonna talk about a book to read that is a bit of an unconventional choice. For today's unrequired reading, I wanted a book that was like about characters who were good at giving compliments or good at taking compliments. And I was making that work a little difficult for me. And so I just sort of spent a few minutes going, okay, what is a character or an author that I think would be good at taking compliments? And what I landed on is Jill Connor Brown, who wrote the book Sweet Potato Queen's Book of Love. And I'm sure if you've never heard of this book, you're like, "I'm sorry, Ashley, did you just say Sweet Potato Queen's Book of Love?" I did. Allow me to explain. And this is there's a caveat as I'm giving this recommendation. This book is pretty dated. It was written back in 1999, and Book of Love, it's got, it's dating advice and, for love and life and all these things. So the advice from 1999 and some of the commentary she's making on men, it's got a real like men are from Mars, women are from Venus sort of vibe that I don't generally like endorse in these modern times. But in the spirit of, somebody who I think would be great at taking compliments that you could glean sort of that attitude from, Joe Connor Brown is somebody I need you to know about because this whole thing, this is real. Okay. So Joe Connor Brown is the author of this book and she founded the Sweet Potato Queens in the 1980s. So basically, she was having a hard time in her life. She wanted some excitement. And so she discovered she lived near the self proclaimed sweet potato capital of the world, which was in Vardaman, Mississippi. And so she volunteered. Nobody was looking for this, but she volunteered to be queen for the farmers' annual festival. And they were like, who are you? What is happening? Nobody made her queen. They weren't looking to make a queen. So she decided instead she was going to be in the St. Patrick's Day parade in Jackson, Mississippi, where she could like be a queen of something. She just, decided to follow this idea along and make her dream come true. So there were four original queens, and they wore green hand-me-down ball gowns and tiaras, waved to the crowd from the bed of an old pickup truck, and they were just like, "We're the queens of sweet potatoes." They just decided they were. And so, like, you need to Google sweet potato queens to see it when I tell you she always wanted to be like a tall person with red hair. And so she just like made it happen for herself. And this is still happening to this day. They have this march, this parade in Mississippi. You could show up and be queen. This whole practice, like I said, I love learning things that you're just like, this is a thing on earth and it makes me happy. And knowing that this woman just created a queendom for herself regarding sweet potatoes just brings me great joy. But again, caveat, the advice is pretty dated. So, and I found my review back when I read it way back when. And I said, what can I say about the Sweet Potato Queens? You won't believe it until you read it. I think this novel and the women in it represent what is great about the modern Southern woman. Unlike the past, we don't feel that we need a man, but if we can get one or a couple, we sure know what to do with them. Even my review is dated. So I'm saying take the recommendation with several grains of salt. It's going to be like a fun chick lit romp if you go down that road. There we go. But what I really want you to take with you is the spirit of Jill Connor Brown as a person who just sort of created a way to manufacture compliments for herself. Yeah. So that is my recommendation, and I hope you take it. And if you do read it, let me know because I don't know what it would be like to read that book for the first time in 2024, and I'm pretty curious about that experience. And now it is time to wrap up our show. I love a little recap because life is busy, and I want you to have something to take with you. So what the heck did we do today? In this episode, we dug into why it can be so awkward to receive a compliment. Vulnerability and being seen can be weird. And to remember that thank you is a complete sentence. We also learned that the key components of a good compliment are praising choices or praising actions. Overall, I think I did a pretty good job if I do say so myself. And I do. Self-compliment. In unrequired reading, I recommended The Sweet Potato Queen's Book of Love to find your inner queen who can give and take a compliment like a pro. And please follow and review wherever you pod and join the Cheerberry on Instagram or Facebook by following me at the @Cheerberryan handle. That's where you can see resource links and other goodies and talk to me, which I would love. Now go on, get out of here. Give someone a compliment. Drink more water. Okay, bye.